Imagine spending a leisurely afternoon by your own pool, only to be suddenly accused of trespassing solely because of your appearance. What unfolds next at Magnolia Creek is not only shocking, it ultimately transforms an entire community. The late afternoon sun shimmers on the still water of the pool at Magnolia Creek Residences, a peaceful apartment complex in Austin, Texas. Here, Jordan Lacer, a 32-year-old software engineer, relaxes on a poolside lounger, savoring a rare moment of calm that his demanding career seldom permits. Having just completed a major project, he decides to reward himself with some much-needed downtime. Jordan settles in with a good book and an occasional sip of ice-cold lemonade, creating a scene that is both tranquil and nearly idyllic. However, the serenity is abruptly disturbed when he hears the sound of approaching footsteps. Glancing up from his book, he sees a woman in her mid-50s, distinguished by her meticulously styled blonde hair, oversized sunglasses, and an unmistakable air of self-importance. Although Jordan has seen her around the complex before, they have never exchanged words. Without any delay, the woman strides directly toward him, her face a mixture of confusion and suspicion. At first, Jordan considers that she might be in need of help. In a sudden shift, her expression dispels any hint of goodwill. "Excuse me," she says in a sharp tone. "Do you live here?" Taken aback by the bluntness of the question, Jordan hesitates only for a moment before replying evenly, "Yes, I do." He straightens his posture, waiting for her next move. "Really?" she presses, narrowing her eyes. "I've never seen you before. Are you sure you're not visiting someone?" Although the insinuation stings, Jordan remains composed. "I live in apartment 304, he explains calmly. "I've been here for 2 years. His response, however, does not seem to satisfy her. "If that's true, then you should have your key card. Let's see it," she demands, her tone jarring. Jordan feels his chest tighten as he contemplates his next words. Refusing to allow her to dictate the course of his afternoon, he replies in a steady voice, "I'm not obligated to show you anything. If you have an issue, feel free to contact management." Her face flushes with indignation as she snaps, "I will. I'm going to call security right now," while pulling her phone from her bag. With a sigh, Jordan leans back into his chair. He is in no mood for unnecessary drama. Yet it appears he has little choice. A few other residents lounging by the pool begin to notice the commotion. Some exchange puzzled glances, while others subtly retrieve their phones. The tension in the air increases with every passing second. Jordan maintains his steady gaze, determined not to be rattled, confident that he is in the right. As the woman steps aside to make her call, her voice rises in volume, clearly intended for all nearby to hear. Jordan cannot help but wonder how far she intends to go as the attention from other residents mounts. The stage is now set for a confrontation that neither Jordan nor the onlookers will soon forget. The woman's voice carries across the pool area as she speaks into her phone with a tone dripping with self-righteous authority. "Yes, I'm at the pool, and there's someone here who shouldn't be," she declares. "No, he says he lives here, but I've never seen him before. I need someone to come down immediately." The weight of dozens of eyes presses upon Jordan, and it becomes clear that the onlookers are not simply watching, they are processing the scene. Some look uncomfortable, others curious, and a few are openly disapproving. A young couple seated on the far side exchange whispered comments, while an older man in swim trunks shakes his head disapprovingly. Yet no one intervenes. Emboldened by the lack of interruption, the woman turns back to Jordan. "You could have avoided all this if you'd just shown me your key card," she says, folding her arms as if she has already won the battle. Jordan meets her gaze with an unreadable expression and calmly replies, "I don't owe you anything." His straightforward response appears to further enrage her. In a low mutter, audible to him and a few nearby bystanders, she adds, "People like you think you can do whatever you want." Though Jordan feels the sting of her words, he is not naive enough to let her bait him into a heated argument. Instead, he shifts his gaze back to his book, flipping a page as if her words were mere background noise. Minutes later, a uniformed security guard appears at the entrance to the pool area. The young guard, likely in his mid-20s, surveys the scene with an expression of uncertainty. The woman wastes no time. She waves him over enthusiastically and proclaims, "Officer, thank goodness you're here," while gesturing dramatically toward Jordan. This man refuses to leave. He claims he lives here, but I'm certain he doesn't. He wouldn't even show me his key card. The guard approaches Jordan, who sets his book aside and stands up, his presence both calm and authoritative. I do live here, Jordan states firmly. I'm in apartment 304. You can check with management if you need to. The guard hesitates, glancing between Jordan and the woman, before finally asking, Sir, do you have your key card with you? Reaching into his pocket, Jordan produces his wallet and flips it open. Inside, he reveals not only his key card, but also his driver's license, which clearly displays the same address as Magnolia Creek residences. Here you go, he says, holding it up for the guard's inspection. The guard nods, his face flushing slightly as he verifies the information. That checks out, he concedes, returning the items. Sorry for the trouble, sir. In disbelief, the woman retorts, Wait, you're just going to take his word for it? The guard, now more resolute, responds, Ma'am, he provided the necessary proof. There is nothing more to discuss. At this point, the silent crowd that had been observing the situation begins to stir. A few people murmur among themselves, and the young couple from earlier offers Jordan a small nod of approval. Yet, before the tension can fully subside, an unexpected voice rings out from the far side of the pool. Enough is enough. The interjection causes every head to turn toward a new figure, a neighbor whose intervention is about to change the course of the confrontation. This new voice belongs to an older woman, perhaps in her late 60s, who has been quietly observing the entire episode from her poolside chair. Dressed in a floral sundress and a wide-brimmed hat, she rises with a confidence that demands attention. Excuse me, she says firmly as she steps toward the small crowd. This isn't the first time this has happened, and I think it's about time someone said something. The woman who had been accusing Jordan spins around, clearly caught off guard. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about, she says defensively. Oh, don't play coy, Eleanor, the neighbor shots back, her voice sharp enough to cut through the thick tension. You have been harassing people in this complex for months, and we're all tired of it. Just last week you accused the delivery driver of loitering because he was taking a lunch break in his truck, and let's not forget the time you called the cops on the college kids moving into their apartment simply because they looked suspicious. The accusing woman's face reddens and she opens her mouth to protest. However, Eleanor continues undeterred. And now, calling security on a man who has done nothing wrong, simply because you don't recognize him, is utterly embarrassing. A ripple of murmurs spreads through the onlookers. Some nod in agreement, while others appear visibly uncomfortable. The focus has now shifted entirely away from Jordan and onto the instigator. Even the security guard, clearly out of his depth, shifts uncomfortably but refrains from further involvement. For his part, Jordan remains silent, allowing Eleanor to take charge of the situation. He can feel the tide turning, and it is a relief to witness someone else standing up against such blatant injustice. Do you even know how ridiculous you look right now? Eleanor continues, her tone softening just enough to make her point with clarity. We are supposed to be a community here. Treating people as if they don't belong simply because they don't fit your narrow idea of who belongs is not how we do things. For a moment there is silence, then someone claps. The clapping starts slowly but grows as more people join in. The sound appears to shake the accusing woman, who now looks small and unsure of herself. This is absurd, she mutters, though the conviction in her voice is clearly diminished. With that, she turns on her heel, gathers her belongings in a flurry of embarrassment, and storms out of the pool area. Eleanor turns back to Jordan, her expression softening as she offers an apology. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's not right, and it's not fair. Jordan gives a small, grateful smile. Thank you. I appreciate that. With Eleanor returning to her seat, the crowd begins to disperse, though the energy and residual tension still linger in the air. The incident, however, is far from over. Unbeknownst to those present, someone has been recording the entire event, and the video is already making its way onto social media. What began as a quiet confrontation is on the brink of exploding into something much larger as the world outside Magnolia Creek takes notice. By the time the pool area finally clears out, a single recording of the incident has begun circulating online. A younger resident named Lucas uploads the video to his social media account with a simple caption: "This just happened at Magnolia Creek. When will this stop?" The clip captures everything, from the accusatory woman's demands and Jordan's calm composure to Eleanor's impassioned call-out and the ensuing applause. It does not take long for the video to gain traction. Back in his apartment, Jordan sits on his couch, still processing the events of the day as his phone buzzes incessantly. Friends and co-workers tag him in the video, expressing their support and disbelief. Jordan had never anticipated how rapidly the situation would escalate. Meanwhile, back at Magnolia Creek's leasing office, the property manager, Ms. Delgado, becomes aware of the incident. As she scrolls through the video on her phone, her expression grows increasingly serious with each passing second. This is not the first time complaints have been lodged against the woman in question, whose name, as it turns out, is Deborah. But now there is undeniable proof of her behavior. Ms. Delgado decides it is time to act, and she calls a meeting with both Deborah and Jordan for the following morning. Although Jordan is reluctant to relive the ordeal, he agrees, recognizing that closure is needed not just for himself, but for everyone who has ever been on the receiving end of such mistreatment. The next morning, the atmosphere in the leasing office conference room is tense. The three, Deborah, Jordan, and Miss Delgado, sit across from one another. Deborah appears far less confident than she did the previous day. She avoids making eye contact with Jordan, nervously fidgeting with the strap of her purse. Miss Delgado wastes no time in addressing the matter. "I have reviewed the footage," she begins in a measured yet firm tone. "Deborah, this behavior is completely unacceptable. You have developed a pattern of targeting residents and visitors based solely on assumptions that have no merit. This is harassment, plain and simple." Deborah sputters in response. "I was just trying to keep the community safe. How was I supposed to know he lived here?" Miss Delgado's gaze remains unwavering. "It is not your job to police who belongs here. That is why we have security and a management team. Your actions have caused unnecessary distress to Mr. Harris and other residents. As of today, you are receiving an official warning. Any further complaints of this nature will result in the termination of your lease." Throughout the meeting, Jordan remains silent, watching as Deborah's face flushes with embarrassment. She attempts to protest, but quickly realizes that she is out of arguments. Finally, she mutters a resigned, "Fine," and storms out of the room. Miss Delgado turns to Jordan, her tone softening as she offers an apology. "I am truly sorry that you had to experience this. If there is anything else we can do to support you, please let me know." Jordan nods appreciatively. "I appreciate that. Thank you." As he leaves the office, Jordan is overwhelmed by a mixture of emotions: relief, vindication, and a lingering sadness that such an incident had to occur in the first place. Yet, the revelations of that day are not over. By the evening, the video of the incident has gone viral. News outlets pick up the story, and hashtags such as Jordan Harris and Drad and Karen trend across multiple social media platforms. The internet erupts in conversation, debating accountability, prejudice, and the importance of standing up against injustice. Strangers reach out to Jordan, sharing their own experiences and thanking him for handling the situation with dignity. What began as a deeply personal ordeal has now taken on global significance, sparking debates and discussions that extend far beyond Magnolia Creek. By the following morning, the video has amassed millions of views and appears everywhere, from social media feeds to morning news programs, and even on major talk shows discussing the broader implications of racial profiling and accountability. Jordan's name and face become central to a national conversation that he never asked for, but now cannot ignore. Waking up to an overflowing inbox filled with messages from strangers, Jordan reads accounts of people thanking him for his calm demeanor, sharing how his actions have inspired them to confront injustice in their own lives. Activists reach out, offering platforms to amplify his voice, and even brands and organizations send emails inquiring if he would like to collaborate or speak at events about his experience. Yet, amid the flood of support, there are detractors who accuse him of overreacting and turning a simple misunderstanding into a spectacle. Despite the negativity, Jordan remains undeterred, understanding that this incident is about a pervasive issue that needs addressing, and that his story has struck a chord with many. Meanwhile, the fallout for Deborah is swift and public. Someone within the complex anonymously shares additional accounts of her behavior, further fueling the fire. Her name begins trending alongside Jordan's, and while a few people might sympathize with her embarrassment, most condemn her actions. Calls for accountability grow louder, with some suggesting that she attend anti-bias training or even face legal repercussions for her harassment. Back at Magnolia Creek, the ripple effects of the incident are palpable. Residents who once remained silent now begin to speak up about their own experiences. A community dialogue forms, focused on creating a more inclusive environment. Ms. Delgado takes the feedback seriously, organizing workshops and panels dedicated to unconscious bias and community building. The once fractured complex slowly transforms into a place of understanding and connection. For Jordan, the whirlwind of attention brings unexpected opportunities. He is invited to share his story on a prominent talk show, where he speaks candidly about the importance of remaining calm in the face of injustice and the value of allyship. It's not just about calling out bad behavior, he explains during the interview. It's about creating spaces where everyone feels they belong, where no one has to prove that they have a right to exist. The interview goes viral as well, further solidifying Jordan's image as a symbol of resilience and grace under pressure. Yet for him, the true reward is closer to home. Neighbors, who he had barely spoken to before, begin greeting him warmly in the hallways, offering kind words and genuine smiles. Eleanor, the neighbor who first stepped in to support him, becomes a regular visitor to his apartment, often bringing over baked goods and recounting stories from her long, eventful life. As the days and weeks pass, the incident gradually becomes a catalyst for change, not only at Magnolia Creek, but also in the broader conversation about how we treat one another. Weeks after the poolside confrontation, life at Magnolia Creek seems noticeably different. The community has shifted. The tension that once lingered between residents begins to dissipate. People no longer see each other as strangers to be judged, but rather as neighbors, sharing the same space, each with their own stories and struggles. Jordan notices this change each time he walks through the complex. Neighbors who he had never engaged with before now stop him for brief, friendly conversations or offer him a warm wave as he passes by. Even children play freely in the courtyard, no longer watched anxiously by their parents, who once harbored suspicion. The walls of isolation and mistrust seem to crumble gradually, brick by brick. In contrast, Deborah's reputation within the complex is tarnished. Although she has not been evicted, she keeps a low profile, avoiding common areas and hurrying past others whenever she is seen. Rumors begin to circulate that she is considering a move, but nothing is confirmed. What is clear, however, is that the incident has forced her to confront her own behavior, and whether or not she will change remains a question that only time can answer. Emboldened by the lessons he has learned and supported by Eleanor and other caring neighbors, Jordan takes his experience and turns it into something positive. He organizes a community event, a barbecue open to all residents of Magnolia Creek, with the simple goal of fostering connection and understanding among people who might otherwise never interact. The turnout is far better than anyone expected. Families bring homemade dishes, children play games, and conversations flow freely. In one corner, Eleanor is seen chatting animatedly with a group of younger residents, her laughter ringing out over the background sounds of music and chatter. Meanwhile, Jordan works the grill, flipping burgers and handing out plates, with a sense of pride and fulfillment that surprises him. As the sun dips below the horizon and the gathering begins to wind down, Jordan steps onto the patio and surveys the scene. Although the event is not perfect, there are still conversations to be had and barriers to break down. It is undeniably a start. For the first time in a long while, the community feels like a place where people genuinely belong. As the crowd gradually thins out, Eleanor approaches Jordan with a plate of cookies. "You've done something truly special here," she says warmly. "I hope you know that." Jordan smiles appreciatively as he accepts the plate. "I couldn't have done it without you, Eleanor," he replies. "You were the first one to speak up." With a modest laugh, she waves him off. "Well, somebody had to do it, and you turned it into something bigger, something meaningful." As the evening winds down, Jordan finds himself reflecting on the journey that brought him to this moment. What began as a moment of humiliation and frustration has grown into an opportunity for growth and understanding, not just for him, but for everyone involved. Though the viral video eventually fades from the headlines and is replaced by the next trending story, the lessons it carried remain with those who witnessed it. Jordan's calm actions, Eleanor's courage, and the community's response have sparked a ripple effect that extends far beyond the gates of Magnolia Creek. The story of Magnolia Creek reminds us that standing up against prejudice is not simply about confrontation. It is about building bridges, creating dialogue, and fostering spaces where everyone feels safe and valued. Small actions can lead to big changes, but it all starts with the courage to say, "This isn't right." If this story has moved you, then let us keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts, your experiences, and your ideas for creating a more inclusive world. And remember to subscribe for more stories that inspire, challenge, and bring us closer together. In the aftermath of that fateful day at the pool, the community of Magnolia Creek embarks on a journey of transformation. The incident, now etched in the collective memory of its residents, becomes a turning point, a catalyst for introspection and change. Neighbors who once felt isolated now find strength in unity. Conversations that once simmered beneath the surface come to the forefront, and long-standing prejudices are confronted head-on. Through community meetings, neighborhood gatherings, and informal chats over shared meals, residents begin to realize that their diversity is not a source of division, but a strength to be celebrated. Jordan's story spreads far and wide, igniting debates on national television and across social media platforms. People from all walks of life weigh in on the issues of bias and accountability, drawing parallels between his experience and their own. Activists and community leaders begin to use Magnolia Creek as an example of how even the smallest acts of courage can spark a movement. The dialogue that emerges is nuanced and deeply reflective. Discussions about systemic injustice intertwine with personal narratives of struggle and resilience. As the community continues to heal, Magnolia Creek transforms into a model for inclusive living. Workshops on unconscious bias, cultural sensitivity, and community building are organized, with the aim of educating residents and fostering mutual respect. These initiatives are not met without challenges, as old prejudices die hard and new ideas often encounter resistance. Yet, each small victory, whether it is a hesitant smile shared between neighbors or a heartfelt conversation about lived experiences, serves as a testament to the transformative power of empathy and understanding. Throughout this ongoing transformation, Jordan remains at the heart of the change. Invited to speak at local schools, community centers, and even larger forums, he shares his experience with candor and humility. His speeches highlight the importance of remaining calm in the face of injustice and emphasize that true strength lies in the ability to listen and understand. Jordan often recalls that fateful day at the pool as the moment that reshaped not only his life, but the lives of everyone at Magnolia Creek. He speaks about the significance of unity, urging people to look beyond superficial differences and to embrace the diverse tapestry of human experience. Eleanor, too, becomes a symbol of courage and resilience. Often invited to community events, she offers her wisdom and life experiences as guidance for younger generations. Her stories of past struggles and triumphs serve as reminders that change is always possible when individuals are willing to stand up for what is right. Together, Jordan and Eleanor become advocates for a new era at Magnolia Creek, one where prejudice is confronted with compassion and where every resident is seen, heard, and valued. In the months and years that follow, the legacy of that day at the pool continues to reverberate. Magnolia Creek evolves into more than just a place of residence. It becomes a living example of how communities can rise above their differences and build bridges of understanding. The incident, once a source of division and conflict, transforms into a cherished memory, a turning point that reminds everyone of the power of collective action and the importance of embracing diversity. As we reflect on the story of Magnolia Creek, we are reminded that every act of courage, no matter how small, has the potential to spark monumental change. Standing up against prejudice is not merely about pointing out what is wrong. It is about actively participating in the creation of a better, more inclusive world. It is about challenging the status quo and, in doing so, inspiring others to take similar actions in their own communities. In closing, let this story serve as a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the face of injustice, there is always the possibility of redemption and transformation. Magnolia Creek teaches us that every individual has the power to make a difference, and that by working together, we can overcome the barriers that divide us. Let us continue to share our stories, to listen with open hearts, and to strive for a world where everyone, regardless of appearance or background, feels that they truly belong. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you found this story moving, or if it has inspired you to reflect on your own experiences, please share your thoughts, your ideas, and your hopes for a more inclusive future. Together, we can build bridges of understanding and create communities where every voice is heard and every person is valued. By the following morning, the video has amassed millions of views and appears everywhere, from social media feeds to morning news programs, and even on major talk shows discussing the broader implications of racial profiling and accountability. Jordan's name and face become central to a national conversation that he never asked for, but now cannot ignore. Waking up to an overflowing inbox filled with messages from strangers, Jordan reads accounts of people thanking him for his calm demeanor, sharing how his actions have inspired them to confront injustice in their own lives. Activists reach out, offering platforms to amplify his voice, and even brands and organizations send emails inquiring if he would like to collaborate or speak at events about his experience. Yet, amid the flood of support, there are detractors who accuse him of overreacting and turning a simple misunderstanding into a spectacle. Despite the negativity, Jordan remains undeterred, understanding that this incident is about a pervasive issue that needs addressing and that his story has struck a chord with many. Meanwhile, the fallout for Deborah is swift and public. Someone within the complex anonymously shares additional accounts of her behavior, further fueling the fire. Her name begins trending alongside Jordan's, and while a few people might sympathize with her embarrassment, most condemn her actions. Calls for accountability grow louder, with some suggesting that she attend anti-bias training or even face legal repercussions for her harassment. Back at Magnolia Creek, the ripple effects of the incident are palpable. Residents who once remained silent now begin to speak up about their own experiences. A community dialogue forms, focused on creating a more inclusive environment. Ms. Delgado takes the feedback seriously, organizing workshops and panels dedicated to unconscious bias and community building. The once fractured complex slowly transforms into a place of understanding and connection.